So last night I was having a conversation with my wife, and we were talking about my grandfather and what kind of man he was and what my relationship was with him, and then what it would be today. So my grandfather, my mother's father, he was drafted in the Korean War, served in Korea, and then did 2 tours in Vietnam. And when he came back, he didn't complain, and granted, this is all before I was born, and he retired before I was born. So I didn't know much. I just knew that he was in the military. But the guy was just, when I looked at him, he was so stoic, and he didn't say much. And when he did speak, it was either very funny or it was very enlightening. And when he spoke, you listened. And when I looked at him, I thought he was the strongest man I had ever seen. I just thought he was just the strongest, the toughest, grittiest man that I'd ever seen. And I never really understood what he did in the military. I knew a little bit. I knew that he went to war. I knew that he was a paratrooper. But I really didn't know all of the details until once he passed and I was in the military, and I got his records from Kansas City, and I found out about his Bronze Star and some of the firefights that had happened in Vietnam with his platoon and losing guys and how he saved people. And it was just kind of mind-blowing, and he never talked about it. And as you know, the Vietnam era of veterans did not get a warm welcome. They did not have support. They did not get mental health support. A lot of them drank. There's a lot of issues, a lot of homelessness, a lot of suicide. And that's just an absolute shame, right? He actually did become quite the drinker for a little while. This is before me. And then one day woke up and quit. Just completely quit. Completely sober, and went sober for a very, very long time, until the day he died. And unfortunately, and I don't know, we don't really know why he died. He died at 67 years old in 2002, right after my first daughter was born, which I was in the military at the time. And I never got to have a real deep discussion with him about his experiences and my experiences. So I was talking to my wife, talking about how different our conversations would be now and how he didn't really open up about that stuff. And I understand now why he didn't, because there was no commonality. There was no common ground there. If you had a conversation, I mean, all the veterans here that follow this channel really understand that, because it's very difficult to have a conversation about your experiences in the military, especially during wartime and those experiences, with a civilian or somebody who wasn't there, somebody who hasn't experienced that same sort of thing. And I thought now, I was like, wow, what an amazing opportunity we have now to right the wrongs of the past, that these veterans have the ability to right the wrongs of the past. And I thought about all the different things that have changed since then. The mental health, and veterans complain, and they're just, the ones that complain are just complainers, and they're choosing to complain because there's so much out there, and I complained as well until I pulled my head out of my ass and realized that I have choices and I can improve in life if I so choose and get the help that I want. The whole disgruntled vet thing pisses me off. But nonetheless, my point being is there is an environmental shift. Never in our life has it been more acceptable to talk about mental health, to talk about your problems, to talk about, maybe post-traumatic stress or testosterone therapy and traumatic brain injury. Like we truly do have this environment to be able to grow, to be able to seek individuals that have become successful in spite of these things and become better. The information is out there. And we have communities and organizations and nonprofits and these different things that are like amazing things, resources that we have to seek help and to become better that they didn't have, right? They had to figure it out for themselves. And a lot of them just drowned themselves in a bottle or drugs until they withered away. And what a shame. So I think now we have a responsibility to do better. We have a responsibility for ourselves to be better. Like taking the easy way out with either suicide or becoming a piece of shit and just drinking all the time and doing drugs and not being a high value veteran, someone that, you know, when you meet, they're like, that's a veteran. That's a cut above. They're a different breed. We have a responsibility to be the latter. And so I thought about the conversations that him and I would have now. I thought about how the in-depth, how I would love now for the experiences that I've had in my life to be able to sit with him and have a real conversation about his experiences. And I know now he would have. If he was still alive today, he would have. And he died at 67 of essentially old age. His organs just failed. And I attribute a lot of that to his life, maybe the drinking, you know, a lot of exposure in Vietnam. And it's a shame because 67 is very young to pass away. And we all miss him. You know, he was a huge part of my life. He was a huge part of bringing stability to a very unstable life. And I would like to, you know, I want to know, like, I want to have that conversation. I want to have that experience with him. And then I want to say, like, what he would think of my book, The Excommunicated Warrior, which talks about the 7 stages of transition and leaving the military and dealing with all those things post-war. I think he would like it. And how awesome it would be to talk about that book, talk about my experiences and his experiences and how they're the same. And I was just sitting there talking to her, like, how amazing would it have been to have my grandfather and everything that he was and everything he's went through in his life. I think he did 22 years in the Army as a paratrooper. I retired as a sergeant first class. And to have him listen to that book or read that book and then us discuss that and how the similarities are there and what I've done and what he went through and how much better we have it now than they had it. Anyways, I wrap up to say all of that, to say we do have it better. Even with all the bullshit in the world and everything that's going on, we have a duty and we have a responsibility to do better than they did, to leave it better than we found it. And I guess one of the ways that I did that was share that story, to write that book. So I challenge all of you in the spirit of the ones who came before us to share that book with someone that you might know. Share a book, a piece of knowledge, something that's going to help. It doesn't have to be The Excommunicated Warrior, although I will say that's a damn good book. And I have the reviews to prove it. Didn't know it was going to be that way, but it turned out to be something very special. So I challenge you to read it. The link's in the description. I challenge you to share it with a buddy. Give your copy to the buddy. Check out the audiobook. Share other veteran stories. I challenge you to write your story in a positive way, not a doom and gloom one, but the one of overcoming, the one of doing the work, the one of becoming better. So I challenge you to let's make a difference. Let's pay it forward. Share this video with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you got a question, drop it in the comments. I'll respond below. Screen grab it. Tag me. Give me a review. And let's truly make a difference. Never quit, never surrender, always forward. See you in the next one.